Hello and welcome back to another Dare to Game video. Today we're looking at Kingdom Come Deliverance 2, a game that of course I have been heavily involved in the development of. No, I'm just kidding. I wasn't even informed. There are YouTubers out there who apparently have known about this for weeks, but not your boy over here at Dare to Game. No, not me. I didn't get a whisper of it. And I don't know, maybe I did something to offend someone at Warhorse Studios' mother or something, but whatever the case is, apparently I'm persona non grata over there. Possibly it has something to do with my bad boy, take no prisoners attitude that I've worked so hard to cultivate, or my internet inflammatory persona, or maybe they just have something against Kermit, but whatever the case is, a greater injustice has never been done. But that being said, damn, the game looks good. This game looks good. It looks like it's made just for me. I feel like when I was watching that reveal, I was like, it felt like it was targeted right at me. I'm like, this is my game. That felt so good. Haven't felt that, I mean, probably since Red Dead Redemption 2, but then before that, since the first Kingdom Come Deliverance. So many games these days are just made for this vast, bland, broad audience that doesn't exist, and they're mediocre at best. This game looks tremendous. So, I've already put out some videos on the channel just like to show you guys, you know, the gameplay and all sorts of stuff like that Warhorse showed, because I know some people don't follow the bigger or the corporate channels or stuff like that. They want to see it from other people, so that's why I shared it. Be at peace, have your mind be put at rest. I am not a shill. Apparently Warhorse Studios doesn't even know I exist, because I was never made aware of anything. But what we're going to do is go through and I'm going to kind of react. People have asked for an in-depth look, especially from a historically accurate point of view, which I know a lot of people aren't doing from the reactions that I've seen, so that's what I'm going to do, because that's my thing. And also just, you know, I've got a photographic memory in general, and I played the first game like 1,500 hours, so I'm gonna be able to, I mean, I remember while I was watching it while it's streaming that I could see a lot of, you know, what was there before, what was still coming, things that had been developed. All the little changes in armor, I noticed them immediately, so we're just going to go through and I'm going to kind of do it high speed. I'm not going to stop for everything. I'll probably skip big chunks of the video if I don't have anything to say, but yeah, let's just get into it.
When it seems you're out of...
Just a note, I know this is Luke Dale, probably not a professional singer, but still pretty solid, and I love that they got the voice actors involved in such a nerdy way. It seems like they actually care about the game, and that helps really sell the atmosphere for me.
There's just one man who gives a fuck. A friend who'll never leave you stuck.
Also, lyrically, this sounds like something I could have written, so again, missed opportunity to involve me in the development process.
Now who can that friend be? Henry, a hero Henry.
It's been a while, but now we can finally show you Kingdom Come Deliverance 2.
That right there, when I was watching the stream, I was like, boom, right there. That's peak. It was crazy how well that they could manipulate your emotions when it's something you love as much as some of us love this game. Well, the first game, and hopefully we'll love the second one. But they're so keenly aware of that. You know, I've compared this game multiple times to other big successes like The Witcher 3 or something like that, or Skyrim, games that have sold 60 million copies, or in The Witcher 3, I believe it's like 37 million or something like that. This one, I believe, passed 6 million, which is, of course, huge. But, like, those people who played through the first game actually stuck to it and played through it, because a lot of people, you'll hear the same story. I played it for an hour and I couldn't get into it. Okay, well, that's not long enough to play Kingdom Come Deliverance. But anyway, the people who stuck to it, not just fans, they're fanatical about it. Like, it is a ridiculous connection that we have to this game that at the end of the day is just a game, but it's so good. Oh, we could see there right before he took an arrow to the neck. We have, of course, what a lot of people were asking for in the first game, given the historical period, and something that I feel like a lot of people are very excited about. He had a hand cannon. Now, I've seen people online saying flintlock, matchlock, arquebus. This is none of those things. It's so much before that. These hand cannons, if you know, that's just what I'm going to call them because obviously they had a German name, but that's not what I'm going to call them because I speak English. It's like a slab of wood with a really tiny cannon on it, and you would light it with. I mean, hypothetically, maybe you could light it with a match, but most times it would be some sort of a brazier would be lit by, and you'd, you know, grab a piece of coal and stick it in there or something like that because you needed something hot to ignite it. And if you had a fuse or something like that or whatever, you just have to hold it as steady as possible and try to aim it. They weren't accurate. They didn't have long range. You had to try to get it as good as possible and just wait until it fires because once you lit it, it was gonna fire, but it wasn't like pulling the trigger on a modern firearm or even on a flintlock where you know about what the delay is. There was a lot of wiggle room in these bad boys, so definitely very cool weapons and devastating against armor, but wildly impractical for the average person, especially if you didn't have some sort of really good cover to hide behind. Then we've got a Trebuchet again, of course, textbook Trebuchet. I can tell because of the counterweight you see.
Take cover!
That was Trotsky Castle back there. I was so taken in by the landscape that I was like, oh, I'm just going to watch it now. But yeah, there we have. We knew from the end of the first game that we were headed towards Trotsky Castle. That's what it looks like. That's a very good rendition of what it looks like historically. It was, you know, an iconic design, so very cool. That mirrors the end scene, or one of the end scenes from the first game where they're riding across after they're chasing past Markvart von Aulitz. But I assume, given the armor that Hans and Henry are wearing there, if that indeed is who that is, this is supposed to be. This will be right at the beginning of the game from what I can tell, because this is about what it looked like when we were leaving Rete at the end of the first game. Oh, we of course always have to start with a hanging. Lots of hangings in medieval times. Very barbaric times, very barbaric people. Or at least that's what modern media would have you believe. But yes, starting with a hanging, opening strong. Markvart von Aulitz looking different from the last time. We, of course, have, I would say that was Sir Eric of Bumfancy there with his fancy white armor, but the face looks entirely different, so hard to say if that is. I don't recognize the guy on the right, but we, of course, have Markvart von Aulitz in the middle. Of course, different coif style. You can tell different graphical integrity on the armor, and we can see a crest on the armor, whereas in the last game it was just the Augsburg cuirass, I believe, is what he was wearing, off, you know, just from memory. So awesome to see some more crests. I loved that in Band of Bastards, the DLC from the first game. I want to see a lot more of that in this game. But I'm also loving that we see the Brigandine, we see the gilded armor over on the side with a belt. We got the hoods, we got the mail coifs up on top. It looks excellent. The armor looks so good so far. Got some blacksmithing. I know a lot of people wanted that in the first game. That was a big deal that, you know, we were the son of a blacksmith, but then we barely did no blacksmithing in the game. Hopefully, I mean, this could just be part of a minigame or it could be a cutscene or something, but I know a lot of people out there are hoping for smithing. Kutenhora or Kutenberg looks amazing. It looks huge. I have to assume that's what this is, just because of what it looks like historically and, of course, the size of it and what they told us in the release, but that looks incredible. Got our classic color scheme for Henry there. They worked that in. Our fancier red hood this time, but then our green shirt and even the light bluish scarf looking thing. It's exactly the outfit that he wears at the beginning of the first game, whether or not, you know, they made it look fancier. He's clearly got a style.
I always dreamt of leaving this place. Becoming more than a peasant.
All right, as cool as that is, unless that guy's not wearing any armor, I want to see the bow that fired those arrows. Because what you're looking at here is, if we're just guessing this is some sort of an average man-at-arms, and it sounded when he was walking, it sounded like I could hear mail rattling. Let's say this guy has a padded gamson mail and what looks like a surcoat on the outside. That means all three of those arrows penetrated through his surcoat, his mail armor on the front, his padded gamson on the front, then back through them again on the back. So, again, awesome shot. Love it. The arrows don't look like bodkin arrows. They look like medieval broadheads. So love it. It looks great. Very cinematic. Hard to believe that any sort of a bow that could be pulled back by a regular human being could fire through that level. That's a lot of penetration. People don't understand. To go through an entire torso and essentially 4 layers of armor, because you have 2 on the front, 2 on the back. Awesome. Very cinematic. Love how it looks. Super unrealistic. All right, here we've probably got our beginning of the game ambush, which is how we can probably explain Henry losing all of his fighting ability or getting diminished and having to build it back up. At least that would be my guess, just based on appearances. Of course, this could happen at any point in the game. I know that in the trailer, we have the line from Martin, Henry's blacksmith father from the first game, who says, you know, the problem with adventuring is you could train to be a swordsman, but the moment you step out the door, someone could shoot you with a crossbow. I think it's entirely possible we're going to see that here, because just from a narrative perspective, Martin was in Kuttenberg for a long time. He's familiar with the area, so it would ring true poetically for that to happen. Henry to come in or Hans to come in, you know, both of them being very well suited to combat and used to it and good with swords and wearing armor and all that sort of stuff from the first game, and have one of them immediately get taken down by a crossbow or something like that, just to make everything Martin say be immediately true to Henry. And I think when I look at the scene, that's what I see. It's some sort of a reality setting in, knocking you down a peg and making it so you actually have to build back up, since, you know, we can't start the game being the god that we ended the first one in.
Trouble with an adventurous life.
Yeah, see, there he's saying it right there.
It can end before it gets started.
Yeah, exactly. All right, got some sort of a knightly armed band. This is probably, again, I would guess, close to the beginning of the game, because we've got Henry and Hans here wearing our, you know, end of the last game, all decked out with the yellow of Rete and all that sort of stuff. And we got these people coming up primarily wearing red. I didn't see a crest on them, but I assume they maybe are associated with these guys who are also wearing a lot of red. I'm not, again, recognizing the crest. I would guess that crest is for Trotsky Castle, possibly because of the multiple keeps on it, but we'll have to see. I didn't Google it, so I'm not familiar with that crest. There's Markvart von Aulitz, so, I mean, maybe that's Kuttenberg, because at this point, Sigismund should be set up in Kuttenberg. He should have already sacked it by this point in history, so my guess would be maybe he's taken on that crest, or maybe that's the garrison crest of Kuttenberg, or maybe Markvart von Aulitz has been put in charge of it or something, and he's going to be the primary antagonist of this game. Whatever the case is, since I can see that crest on him, that would be my guess.
Congratulations, Sir Knight.
Got some more people hanging, of course, very medieval, and we can, of course, hear Sir Istvan Toth talking in the background in a very Joker-esque manner.
You finally become a man.
There we had what looked like a pretty cool and brutal inter-knight sword fight with Henry taking a little tumble off a cliff. Some more Skalitz flashbacks. It's probably how they're going to summarize the first game, because they did make a point to say that you don't have to have played the first game to understand this one. My guess is going to be cutscenes are going to explain the story. It sounds complicated because the game is actually quite a big game, and if you haven't played it, I recommend playing it. I always recommend playing the first Kingdom Come Deliverance, but it could be summed up pretty quickly in a cutscene or two, because it's a very small scale event. It's some attack, some revenge, Henry's character. That's basically the story beats of what happens in the first game. So it would be easy to sum that up in a minute or two. So I'm guessing that's what they're going to do.
Wake up. Pull yourself together, Henry.
There's our sword. We're finally getting our sword back. That looks like Henry grabbing it. Yep. Look at that. And that's the armor he's wearing at the end of the first game / what looked like the beginning of this game. So maybe we're going to get our sword back early. Got some actual, that doesn't look like a cutscene, that looks like actual combat from the game just based on the movements. I mean, maybe they animated it to look that way, but that looked like a regular mace combo from the first game. Crossbows, I know everybody's wanted crossbows, and what's even cooler is that they were allowing us to use them on horseback. Now, of course, reloading a crossbow on horseback would probably be just ridiculously difficult, but firing them on horseback certainly takes a lot less training than firing a bow on horseback does. More combat, a very unrealistic and Hollywood-esque backwards spinning slash with the axe. Again, looks very cinematic from a historical point of view. Don't love it. I'm not saying you couldn't do it. I'm not saying no one ever did it, but I'm saying in that time that he took to spin there, There are a lot of opportunities for any of these other people to kill him like a million times. Especially because he doesn't have a helmet on. And of course, I see that we want to see Henry's face, but yeah. Super vulnerable during that sick Hollywood spin.
Nobody will handle.
Is Van Toth, look at him, wearing an extra fancy coat and his signature, I believe, was it Kaftan? No, I can't remember what they called it, but basically a turban.
Anything on a platter.
Got more masks up. That's something I've been seeing all over the place in this game. A lot of the visors on the helmets are up at various points. In one point, I think we even see him putting it down.
To men like you and me.
Of course, another section. Okay, so that must be Sir Eric, or Eric of Bumfancy, as I called him in the first game. That must be him, because he clearly is with Toth once again. Or maybe this is a flashback to the first game. It could be. It does look like he's in a crappy little cabin like he was when he was held in Vrana Killfort, so it's possible that this is just a flashback from the first game, but we're seeing Toth and we're seeing Eric there beating up Henry again, so either he's going to get tied up and beat up by the same people again, or this is a flashback to the first game.
You still have a long way to go till your work is done.
There's the puppy again that I know so many people like. Another castle battle scene, always epic. There's our hand cannon. Definitely looks like a lot more action and fights in this game. And I mean, don't get me wrong, I absolutely love the first game, but the combat is always one of my favorite parts of a game, and I loved it in the first one. So having more of that is not a bad thing in my opinion. It's probably only ever going to be a good thing.
O merciful God, be kind and protect us, so we don't blow our arses off. Amen.
All right, so that's the end of the first gameplay reveal. I'll skip through the rest of this because I'm not going to go through the whole reveal stream reacting to it, but I will go through each of the gameplay chunks as we go through. But didn't hear anyone say any of the lines that we've all gotten so used to. Jesus Christ be praised. Henry's come to see us. I feel quite hungry. I expect those to be in the game. If they're not, this is a literal 0 out of 10. So here we get another shot, so they confirm this is Kuttenberg. Either that or they just edit it in a very deceptive way. So again, looks beautiful. Love the size of it.
Gorgeous city at the heart of Europe, but also at the heart of KCD2.
So that's where most of the game is going to be taking place.
Henry's journey.
Here we're going to talk a little bit more about the journey
that I think everybody can identify with, because he...
So they're going back to, I think, one of the reasons why so many people, myself included, absolutely love the first game. Henry is this nobody idiot who has absolutely nothing going on, and you play him from that point up until as epic as you can possibly make him in the game. This full-blown knight who can read and is working with lords and other knights and can take on an entire encampment of humans by himself in a die-hard style. So absolutely love that journey.
A kind of nobody, and goes through life with all these immense challenges, and I feel like everybody can relate to that.
There we had a clear scene of him being imprisoned. It looked like Hans was with him in prison, so I think an excellent chance that this is going to be some sort of the story bridging device for how we're going to get from Trotsky Castle, from our first initial victorious entry, which I'm sure they're going to give us, to our downfall and then our path of rebuilding back up. That would be narratively what I would guess that prison scene had to do with.
This is all the kind of fun times and all the kind of ebullience and joy that Henry has in himself, but it takes a bit of accessing, and I think Hans really helps him to do that.
Whew. You were right about our stench. Let's hope this water isn't too cold. You wouldn't want your pride and joy shrinking.
I'm more worried about it being too deep.
They were able to work in two things in this scene here, both a dick joke, which is always appreciated, and of course, on top of that, I think this is Hans teaching Henry how to swim, so here's hoping that water isn't such a boundary in this game. Now, mind you, riding into it with full plate armor on or jumping in like that should definitely kill you. I hope that if you're able to go in the water, if you do it wearing plate armor, you should drown. That should be how it works in this game, because that's certainly how it would work in real life, unless it was, of course, knee deep. But yeah, so that's what we get in that scene. So I'm just going to assume that we're being taught how to swim. So that's like the difference between Red Dead 1 and Red Dead 2. Arthur can swim no problem, but John could not.
But we were not able to do it because we didn't have enough resources.
So this is Daniel Vavra talking about how the scale and design and style of this game is more what they intended with the first one. And this is something a lot of people complained about with Kingdom Come Deliverance, was our initial look at it when they first announced it real early on. It had this much broader scope where you were going to be besieging castles and taking place in these large battles, and the world was going to be more sandbox and changeable and stuff like that. And then we got a relatively contained, story-driven set-piece experience out of the first one, and I think it's an excellent experience, but it's not what they promised initially, and it's not what people expected. So what Daniel Vavra is saying here is that what they made this time is much more like what they wanted to make the first time, and while he's saying that, they're showing footage of a fortress being besieged. So I think that leads more into this game's going to be a lot more action-heavy. It's going to have a lot more combat, bigger set pieces, obviously more castle-related activities, and, you know, like I said, it helps that while he's saying this, they're showing footage of a siege.
And now we can take it to another level, which
deeply entrenched in his already, you know, set.
Here we've got another scene of Henry being his iconic playboy philanderer self. We've got a woman I don't recognize, so not Teresa. I'm very disappointed in Henry for that. But again, he's in Kutnahora, so gotta have a lady in every city, I guess. At least when you're as powerfully charismatic as Henry is.
Different ways.
That's the shot I was talking about before, where this looks like gameplay, so this is not a cutscene. And as you're entering the duel, the guy had his visor up and he shut it before the fight, which is, of course, you know, the whole point of visors. That was one of the things from the first game. You'll see these people with these visored helmets just running around with them shut all the time. The whole, if you were going to do that, you wouldn't have a visor because that's a weak point. You would just have some sort of a grand bassinet or a large overhelm or something like that that is a solid piece, because that's structurally much stronger. The visor is a weak point, but you have it so you can have it open so you can breathe freely the rest of the time. So I love that detail. That's great. That's a great addition to historical authenticity. That's the type of stuff I love seeing in these games. Again, all of this looks like gameplay. So we're seeing more of our same combat style, a lot of those combos. They said it's going to be more approachable. I hope that doesn't mean they've dumbed it down to the point of being, you know, a hack and slash. But it looks smoother. I'll give it that. It looks a lot smoother than the first game.
Added new type of weapon. We added crossbow.
So here they're talking about the new weapons they've added, and I haven't heard anything about polearms. If they made polearms more accessible, like you could actually keep them with you and you don't just drop them if you get on a horse or something like that. But we're talking specifically about the two ones that so many people asked for, and I think so many people are excited for. We've got crossbows, and we're seeing some gameplay with them. They don't look like huge crossbows. They do look like pretty small crossbows. So I would hope that the damage would be reflective of that, because small crossbows like this are not the ones that are penetrating plate armor and killing people from 100 yards away. I think a lot of people have misconceptions about medieval crossbows, and a smaller one like this would be very effective at pretty short range, but against armored opponents and at any range that's not super duper close, this would obviously be significantly less effective than, say, a powerful longbow would be.
Also, some early
looks awesome,
firearms.
There's our hand cannon, and that's what I said. So you light the thing, and then you just have to brace it because it's going to kick like a mule, and you just got to hold it as still as possible and wait, because, I mean, I'm sure in the game it'll have probably a pretty consistent light-to-fire rate, but in real life, super inconsistent. Sometimes they would literally just explode. A lot of people did not like using these, but awesome to see it work. And look at all that blood and gore on the ground. That's so much more than we ever saw in gameplay from the first game. So if this is a cutscene, that's nothing new. But if that's gameplay that we're looking at right there, that is way more gore than the first game had.
Kingdom Come. We talking guy who talks his way out of problems.
Again, more philandering. They're talking about that. They're putting a lot of emphasis on that, so I'm guessing that we're going to be able to romance our Lady Stephanies and our Teresas of Kuttenberg. Right here, we're going to go, I just rewound it so I could say this beforehand, we're about to go into the part that has me quite possibly the most excited and most intrigued of any new thing that they've shown.
You can be a thief, you know, a
So we're seeing that we can assassinate people. It looks basically the same as it did in the first game. This right here! Boy, do they, when they say the stakes are higher this time, boy, do they mean it. Last time, you could, and I did this, you could go on a killing spree and kill everyone in Rete, and then you get arrested, and what do you get? You get 10 days in prison. Which I think is too harsh. I think that's a little bit over the top. You know, draconian punishments back in the Middle Ages have been really underplayed, if that's what you could expect. But here, look, we've got a terrified Henry tied up in front of a crowd about to be branded.
Will be recorded.
Look at this. They're going to brand him, and let's see where they are. They're aiming.
They saw you.
his face right on his
that.
cheek. Yeah, that would be a very serious thing to happen. So I don't know if that's, again, I don't know if that's just a set piece, if that's a cutscene, or if that's something that can randomly happen to you through the game if you get too criminal. That's awesome. That is the type of consequences in a reputation system that I love. And they talk about that quite a lot here. So they talk about, what he was just talking about was, he said, you know, if you're naked and drunk in the street, people will approach you and say things and you can respond in different ways. I love that. It's something I said multiple times with the first game. I wish that we could interact with NPCs in a more open and universal way. It's something that Red Dead Redemption 2 did really well, where you could talk to any NPC and you had a various, you know, a lot of times you'd get the same canned responses or whatever, but it still made them interactive and it made them so much more alive. It was something that in the first game I felt was lacking in NPC interaction. Now, from what I understand, all the NPCs we're going to be able to talk to them, we're going to be able to respond and choose what way we want to do that, and that hopefully will affect their opinion of us and our reputation.
Do a lot of criminal stuff around the village. People will start to be suspicious.
Here we see Henry being a rogue, like I like to play him. We can see him pointing in a dead body, this NPC here, so, you know, I'm guessing this is going to be suspicion that maybe you just killed him.
Little things.
Now we've got some guards approaching you, possibly to arrest you, maybe to chase you out of the village or whatever the case may be. But again, they're talking about criminality and reputation here, so I love seeing more interaction in that. So many games have been great in a lot of aspects. There's something like Skyrim where you're the captain of you're in charge of the Thieves Guild, you're in charge of the Companions, you're in charge of the Dark Brotherhood, you're a Thane of every hold. You've got all this stuff going on, and people just act like you're absolutely nobody. Nazim will still ask you if you get to the Cloud District very often. That is something that I hate in open world games, when what you do in the game means absolutely nothing to the NPCs. All you have to do is throw me a little bone, have them comment on something that you did offhand or anything like that. It makes the game feel so much more realistic.
Collapse into like greater mosaic, where
he said mosaic in a very funny way. Just a rapid fire here. We can see some of our class features. We've of course got Farkle again. There we've got some horse care maintenance, weapon maintenance, blacksmithing again, and of course alchemy. This is the part here where Daniel Vavra is talking about the different, and he says maps. He does say maps, so I assume this is going to be two distinct regions, probably story locked. I mean, I would love if you can just transport or, you know, travel between the two throughout the game whenever you want, or maybe the story will take you back and forth. That's what I prefer. So hopefully that's the case, but my guess would be they're probably story locked. You're probably going to spend the first portion of the game in the Bohemian Paradise, Trotsky Castle region, and then something will happen, and then you'll be in the Kuttenberg region. So that would be my guess, but here's he's talking about it. And all the shots they show of the Bohemian Paradise here, which is the area around Trotsky Castle, just look incredible. They look so good. And this is a great example of what I'm always telling people about the first game, how good it looks.
The map is taking place on the actual place that's called Bohemian Paradise. And it's really beautiful nature.
It's just incredible.
Quite unusual rocky formations all around. And then
of course, that just looks like Skalitz.
We are moving to totally different, rather urban countryside, surrounding huge silver mining, very rich city. So there's this big city.
And so the silver mining city is obviously Kuttenberg. It was one of the largest silver mining producing centers in all of the Holy Roman Empire at the time.
Muddy, dirty, medieval.
Here's where they're talking about how so many representations of the medieval period are all dark and drab and muddy and dirty, and nobody has anything, and it's not, you know, everyone wears gray and they're covered in dirt all the time, and that's such a stupid Hollywood trope. It's all to prop up, it's a post-Enlightenment idea, basically. So many people were like, the Middle Ages, the whole period from 500 to 1500 was full of ignorance, stupidity, and filth, and everyone died, and they lived in their own feces, and it was all terrible. It's this idea, that's why they started calling, the term Dark Age was coined then. It's not because people didn't know anything. It wasn't, of course, physically dark. There was it, and so many people, you see this all the time, oh, it's 1,000 years of stagnation where education and science were heresy. That has never been true historically. That was done by Enlightenment people to say, look how much better we are now. And Victorian era, too, to be like, this is society. What we do, we are the smart ones. No one before us has ever been like us. And so this Hollywood trope of the dirty, dingy, dark, drab Middle Ages is so ridiculous. We are so much more drab now than they were then. The more flamboyantly you could dress with ridiculous colors and clothing that looks, of course, absurd with feathers sticking out of it, that was the thing back then. Now, I mean, every day I wear jeans and a t-shirt. If it's a little bit chilly, I'll wear a flannel or some sort of a button-up on top, or if I've got to dress up, you can see me in khakis and a button-down or something like that, but you know, that's it. That's my whole wardrobe. Back then, if you could afford it, man, your wardrobe was flashy. You had colors, reds, yellows, blues if you could afford it, all over the place, trying to be so colorful and bright. And if you were a peasant, that was usually one of the few things, peasant or the gentry or whatever, you know, a level where you could, of course, have money of some sort and then obviously build wealth if possible. That was the way that you could show wealth. Clean, fancy, nice clothing that was very colorful. And of course, same thing for houses, interiors, castles, all of that sort of stuff. You had frescoes all over the place. It was colorful and vibrant. And that's what they're talking about here. That's what they're trying to...
Everyone is dying.
You know, so I love that. It just plays into the fact that Warhorse Studios actually cares about historical authenticity. And that's so refreshing.
It was really like
we've got Anna talking
like
about all the nature,
all.
the beauty, all that sort of stuff, and we get another shot of the forests, and it's hard to believe that they could have made it look better than the first game, because the forests in the first game looked so good, but this is just leaps and bounds better. It looks amazing.
Environments. Like players should go and explore all those like little woods and
I love the rocky formations too.
Castles.
Look at that view. That is incredible. First of all, great historical authenticity because, you know, this is how castles, this one in particular, were built. It was supposed to be so that very few people could defend it. It was super safe. You know, look at that. How do you attack that castle? Sure. Maybe you climb up it, right? Maybe give me a couple climbing spikes and I'll impregnate her, right? That's Braun's word about the Aerie. But look at that. How hard would it be to have a direct assault on this? You could have 70 people in there defending against 1,000 that were trying to attack it, and they would have such an advantage because of that design. And that view is incredible. Man, that looks good.
The thing that
And then, of course, to end out the stream, we have my favorite part, the Piece de Resistance.
Thank you for all your support. Please follow us on our journey to create something unique. Kingdom Come Deliverance 2 will be released by the end of this year.
See you in KCD2.
Perfect. Absolutely perfect way to do that. And even though I feel so left out by Warhorse Studios not contacting me to show me the thing earlier or do anything, didn't throw me a bone at all, I feel so left out. It feels like that was pointed at me. And I don't want to, you know, maybe that sounds cocky or whatever, but that's what I said in multiple videos for the last several years. I said, here's what you do, Warhorse Studios. You work on the game. And they were working on it. They said, we've been working on it for 6 years. That's how long since the first one's been out. So clearly they have been working the whole time, which of course I knew they were. It's their only IP and it was very successful. Of course they were working on it. And I said, here's what you do. You work on the game, you get it done. When the game is done, you say, hey, look at this game we made. We're releasing it within the next 6 months or whatever. And to be fair, they come pretty close because they said by the end of the year. Technically, that could be anything before January 1st of 2025. So it totally could be a holiday season game, but that's what they did. That's 8 months from now. So that's exactly what they did. Clearly the game is either done already or so close that they're literally just dotting some I's and crossing some T's, and they're releasing the game. Here's my bet. This is what I think they're probably doing, just from a strategic point of view, because I believe that the game is probably done already. They're probably just going to wait for the E3 and all that sort of stuff, Gamescom, all of those to be done and see what everyone else is planning. And then they'll strategically pick to release it at the best time for when it'll have the least competition or will maximize profits the most. So that could be the holiday season. It could be August. You know, it could be November. November's a time where a lot of big games like to drop. Could be lots of stuff. But that would be my guess, is that the game's probably done and they're just waiting for the window to release it. So we'll probably learn about it either at Gamescom or at E3. We'll get a more specific release date, or after they've had time to look and see what everyone else is planning, then they'll give a date. Because that's how you do it. That's the way to make a game. That's the way to release a game. You don't say, yes, we're working on the Elder Scrolls 3, and then, you know, not actually be working on it or be in the conceptual stages or just be barely finishing your crappy space game, and then you can expect Elder Scrolls 3 10 years from now. No, this is how you do it. You get your asses working, you work on the game, you finish the game, and you say, the game's done, here, we're releasing it. Bing, bang, boom. A lot of people complain, oh, they should have told us they were working on it. Why? What does that help? If it wasn't going to be done until 2024, what difference does it make that they haven't confirmed it until 2024? Now we get a couple months of intense hype without getting burnt out on it, and then we get a fantastic game, hopefully. But yeah, that's my reaction. I love this just as much as all of you. If you don't love it, I don't love you. I guess it's that simple. But that's all for today. I love to take a look at this. I hate that I feel so left out in the community. So many other YouTubers were apparently thought of before your old boy dared a game. It's like I've never played the game, but that's all for today. Hope you enjoyed it. We'll see you next time. Thanks for watching another Dare to Game video. If you liked this video, please leave a like and a comment. If you haven't already, be sure to subscribe to the channel. If you like my content and would like to support this channel, consider becoming a member today for as little as $1.99 a month. It makes a huge difference. But in any case, thanks for watching and have a nice day. I'll see you next time.